The reality is that you are not your business. If you detach yourself from the business, it allows you to be curious, ask feedback, and be very objective when it comes to the way you serve and the way your business performs. There is a different option which is much more efficient.
I would like to challenge you to come up with the biggest 5 myths about productivity.
The biggest one is common belief that productivity is about time management. The truth is it's not about time. As the mom of 3 kids and 1 dog, I can tell you there is time. And this is the huge one because
Welcome to the Nomad Solopreneur show. I'm your host, Gabe Marusca, joining you on your solopreneurship journey as you build, grow, and learn. Today, we are talking with Katarina Koik, who turned her 15 years of corporate experience into a transformative journey for professionals and entrepreneurs worldwide. From leading high-stakes projects in the banking industry to building a peak performance mastery methodology, Katarina is helping individuals unlock their full potential and catapult to the next level of success. Despite managing her business, Katarina balances a bustling household as a proud mom of a daughter, twin boys, and a canine companion. He's able to do all that thanks to achieving peak performance through productivity. Today, Katarina will bust 5 productivity myths and reveal insights of what real productivity looks like. Let's jump straight into it. Hey Katarina, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Can you please tell us, how did you end up an entrepreneur?
That has been a long journey, I would say, because I have been in corporate for 15 years. I have been leading different transformational projects and IT projects and also international teams. And I was actually pretty happy at my job. And there was one common thing what I have been noticing throughout my career that had my attention and curiosity, because I was very lucky to be surrounded by outstanding leaders and professionals along the way. And what I was really curious about is why that talented, professional, and experienced people work way beneath their potential. And that has been the question that I have been searching answers to for a long time. And I knew that if I ever start my own business, then it will be something about helping people become who they can be and discover what they are truly capable of so that they could achieve much better and much greater results.
That's interesting because almost all my corporate life, I was settled for less. For me, the reason was I didn't feel that the business I was working for was given enough back to their employees. That was my situation. But I'm curious, what did you notice in your former jobs? Why people settle for less?
I love what you have just told because this is the vibe of most of the entrepreneurs. Why they actually start their independent journeys, that they feel that the way they give, they do not get back enough. But when I speak about the corporate leaders and corporate professionals I have been working with, it has been slightly different. When I think about them, it was mostly about different fears, like fear of getting visible, fear of uncertainty, fear of being judged, and of course, fear of not being good enough for something better. And on top of that, there is also inherent wish for many of the people to be in stable environment. You know, there are many people who strive for stability and who want things to stay the way they are. But unfortunately, the things cannot stay the way they are because the world is constantly evolving and there are just 2 options. Either you evolve along or either you stay behind. So there is no such thing as stability and stagnation in nature and also in the corporate world. But these are the main things that have been keeping the most of talented people working beneath their potential. And I also want to say that I have experienced myself most of these things, but not when I was in my corporate. But for me, the biggest transformation happened when I was transitioning from employee to the business owner.
When that happened and why?
The why is pretty much related with my kids, who are the big why behind what I'm doing. And if I have to summarize it in one sentence, then when I became a mom, I was thinking, what could be the one thing I could teach my kids? Because when it comes to kids, telling doesn't work. You can tell everything what they have to do in order to get the results that you want them to get, but it just doesn't work. The way how kids learn is through your example. They analyze what you are doing and what kind of results you are getting, and then they apply it to themselves. So I was thinking, okay, what is just the one thing that I could teach my kids by example? And the one thing was that I actually want my kids to live their purpose. So to follow their dreams and to become who they want to be, not who I want them to be. And when I discovered this, then I actually came to realization that I'm not the person who lives my own dreams either. So how can I teach this, Mike? No. And I mean, I absolutely loved my corporate job. I was thriving there. I had amazing people around me, but I also was dirt honest with myself, with the realization that I really want to have bigger impact and help more people than just within boundaries of even the greatest organization. And that has been the main drive for me to step onto this journey.
How do you take that leap? Because some people prepare for years, saving money in case their business is not hitting the ground running as soon as possible. So how was your journey?
My journey was a little different because I was on maternity with my twins. And this is the place where I actually created the space to self-reflect and decided to be honest with myself and took the decision that this is the path that I would want to go. And I started quite early because I knew that it will be painful transition. All transitions are painful. I knew this already from my corporate times, that whenever something new comes, there is always the pain related to that. And it always takes time. I still was on maternity with my twin when I started learning, getting qualifications and preparing myself for this journey. But to everyone else who is listening to us, if you are in your corporate journey and if you want to start something, then it's amazing if you do this as the side hustle and the side activity. Because it a little bit comes down to this energy, how you enter your business. And the energy has to be coming from the place of love and curiosity and your desire to serve, and not from the place of fear and, this neediness, like I need my business to start working. If you are thriving in your corporate life and you are fine with that and you just start your side hustle, it gives you this great energy of curiosity and passion and interest, and not so much of this neediness. And this is the big change, I would say. And when it comes from me, it has been, as I mentioned, like all transformations are painful. So for me, there were three main pains I would want to share with our listeners, because these are the three pains that could resonate the most. So the first one is fear of visibility, fear of being judged, and second guessing, like what people will think if I transition. How will my family members react? And how will it look like? What if they don't like it? What if I fail? I think many of entrepreneurs and actually also corporate leaders and professionals can relate to this. Typical overthinking.
And was one of my biggest fear as well when I prepare mentally to make the jump. I was already running for 1 year my side hustle. It reached the level of income of my full-time job, but I already knew that my friends, my family, and society in general will think, oh my God, you're leaving this high-paid job at a state-owned business to something that you don't know how will evolve. And I already made that jump when it comes to my education. I quit my university before jumping to a new one that allows me to work in the same time. I knew the reaction that I will get, so the fear wasn't that high, but still was real. And what was the second thing that you encountered?
Second thing is a little bit more counterintuitive. And this is very relevant to entrepreneurs, a little bit more than corporate leaders. I was so attached to my business that I was thinking that I am my business. And why it is counterintuitive, because in my corporate world, and what I teach actually many corporate leaders and teams, is the ownership mentality, because ownership is when you are responsible for this area and you continuously learn, evolve. But this is not the same as thinking that you are your business, because the reality is that you are not your business. You are so much bigger than your business. And it's very important, especially for entrepreneurs, to detach themselves. I have taken the concept that my business is just the vehicle for me to serve people, and the vehicle for me to help more people discover their own path and get the strategies and step-by-step guidance to get there want to get. But this is not me. If you detach yourself from the business, it allows you be curious, ask feedback, and be very objective when it comes to the way you serve and the way your business performs. Because whenever you discover that something is not working, you do not think, oh my goodness, I am not working. I am the failure, because it's not about you. It's just that some part of what you are doing requires your attention and requires some adjustment. And this is a very big difference when you make it all about yourself versus when you make it all about how can I improve the small parts of my business vehicle so that it could move faster and perform better and serve in a much better quality.
Yeah, indeed. And all that comes with clarity. And that clarity comes with not having that fear of running out of money. That's why it's so important to be prepared when you take that leap from leaving corporate and starting your own thing. If you cannot think from a perspective of someone that has 1 year of cushion to make decision without, oh my God, I need to say yes to this project. I need to say yes to that client, even that maybe it's not a good fit, can make a huge difference. And you can avoid these things of not thinking clearly and basically making these mistakes. And when it comes to the third thing that you mentioned,
third thing is relevant to both corporate professionals and also entrepreneurs. And this is the loop. This do, have, and be loop means that high achievers and entrepreneurs, what they tend to do is they tend to do more and push themselves harder in order to achieve the results that they want so that they could become the person that they want to be. And this is a little bit like a fighter mode. This is the completely like achiever's mentality and fighter's mentality. And I have been operating in this mentality for many years. I have been doing more qualifications, more courses, more programs, taking more things in so that I could serve my clients in the way that I wanted to serve them and have the business I wanted it to have so that I could become the coach and business owner who I wanted to become. But actually, if you don't want to operate in the fighter's mentality, there is a different option, which is much more efficient. And this is not that do, have, and be, but be, do, and have. So that when you start with who you are, who you want to become, then it becomes natural for you to take the steps with determination to get the results that you want to have. The whole point is before you start doing anything, you need to decide who is the person that you want to be and what this person would do to get the results that you want to get. And once you become this person, it becomes much more natural for you to get the results, to get this thriving business or a thriving career that you want.
And I feel like one of the reasons most people fail to arrive at that point of actually knowing who they want to become are excuses. You mentioned that you did a lot of things in order to become who you want to become and to build this business the way you want to build, to be able to serve your clients the way you want to serve. And in order to achieve those things, you have to get things done. You have to be productive. There are a lot of myths around productivity. And I would like to challenge you to come up with the biggest 5 myths about productivity and how you can actually overcome those and get things done. Because as you mentioned, a lot of people have potential, but they simply don't achieve their potential because of those limited beliefs that surround this productivity space, which you in your opinion, the biggest one?
The biggest one is common belief that productivity is about time management. So I believe that even our listeners who are very advanced and have been on your journey for a while, even some of them still think that productivity is about time management. So the truth is it's not about time. As the mom of 3 kids and 1 dog, I can tell you there is time. You can find time to do these amazing things that you want to do. But the issue is that you might not have the energy to do these things. And if you feel like if someone from our listeners feels a little bit of resistance, like I'm for sure, I don't have any time, then I encourage them to really follow through their day and pay attention to where their time goes and how many gaps they actually have during their day, because they will discover some. So the thing is, we have the time, we just don't have the energy. And the way out is very simple. Once we recognize that it is about energy, then we need to understand what is this biggest energy drainers. Some people are drained out of energy when they're socializing, when they are in noisy environment. And maybe there are certain types of circumstances or people or different interactions that can be also energy drainers. So this is like the question that each one of us have to answer on our own. What is that drains my energy the most? And if I refer back to my journey, then as I mentioned, it was like typical overthinking and analysis paralysis. So I was collecting so much information that in the end, I didn't do anything about it. So it's like complete informational overwhelm.
Indeed, and usually that's the case. And speaking of information, one of the most energy draining things that we do on a daily basis is consuming content on social media. And when I start tracking that time that you mentioned, I was in the same situation and I was looking at my day, where I spend my time. I was looking on my phone and looking at social media 6 hours a day. I was like, what? 6 hours from 24 hours spending on social media? It's huge. And just on my phone, I'm not talking about engaging on LinkedIn straight from my laptop or something. And when I put a limit to that, things change. I get my energy back, and that was just one energy draining. But analyzing your environment, as you mentioned, to see where you consume that energy. And apart from time management, what is the other myth?
The other myth is my favorite because most of the clients I work with come with this myth integrated in their mindset. And that's the myth that most of the high achievers have in their heads. And this is, if you have more working hours, then you will have greater output. And it's just simply not the way how it works, because research show again and again the same thing, that if your working hours extend 55 hours per week, then your productivity actually drops. If you work longer than 55 hours per week, then you will get closer to burnouts, to anxiety, and you will actually experience the decrease of your cognitive abilities, meaning that you will not be as smart as you can be. This is the huge one, because all of my clients come to this situation at one point or another when I ask them the questions, okay, now we know what you have to do in order to get to your dream destination. We have the plan. So when will you make time to make it happen? And that's when they say, okay, I need to extend my working hours. But if it's not the way, then what is the way? And this way is actually really simple. If we understand that this is like constant, that we cannot extend our working hours, then how do you fit these important things inside? You need to say no to several things to say yes to the things that matter to you. This is very challenging for high achievers because they do not want to say no to anything. They would rather do more, as I mentioned, this do, have, and be mentality. It's everywhere in the high achieving way of thinking. So it's really not about doing more. It's just saying that, okay, I need to make the choice. Either I make space for the things that matter and say no to some things, or I basically will not move to my desired destination. And why this is so hard to say no to the things is because we treat our lives, our careers and businesses a little bit too seriously. If you understand that, okay, it's just a matter of choice, and today I decide like this, I will prioritize this and say no to other things, it doesn't mean that I cannot decide newly later. So we have the flexibility, we have the freedom to choose. And because if we take ourselves that seriously, we basically grow our ego and we do not grow our results. The third is related to prioritization, because instead of prioritizing, what people do? They create themselves on the go to-do lists where they put all the items that keep coming into their tables, into their lives, and they just crumble it on the to-do list. And without analyzing, okay, what is the priority of this thing that I want to put on my to-do list? And the thing about to-do list, this is like one of the biggest myths, I would say, that to-do list boosts my productivity. In most cases, unfortunately, to-do list will not boost the productivity. And the thing about to-do list is like why it's so popular is because when you cross out this item, you get this feeling of, oh my God, I have done it. It's like immediate gratification, And this is the false dopamine creating in ourselves the false feeling of achievement, because we can put there things that do not matter. We cross them out and feel like we have achieved. While if we have a more broader vision, if we zoom out a little bit, then we will see that this task, what we have just crossed out, has no contribution to our long-term goals. And this is the problem with the to-do list. But it can be also very helpful if your to-do list is related with your priorities. And it's also related with the time allocation is the key to everything. So if you know that these are the 3 things that you have to do, the next step is to allocate time to make these things happen. Then you can put them to your to-do list, because then it can be helpful maybe. But this is the sequence: prioritization, then time allocation, and then to-do list in case you need this. And I myself, I haven't been using to-do list for the last maybe 9 months or so.
That's a big one. And I was in the same trap. I was making this long to-do list with everything that I want to do, from business side of things, personal life, health perspective, and so on. And I was overwhelmed. And when you mindfully look at your priorities and add only the things that matter, that move the things forward, everything changes. Moving to the 4th myth.
And this is the myth of multitasking. I have been so proud that I have been multitasking. I have been so good at multitasking, juggling between being a mom and doing different stuff at work. And I thought that this is really cool. But when I became less younger and more experienced, I discovered that multitasking is one of the biggest energy drainers of all. And there is even the official name for that. And this is the switching cost. Our multitasking comes at very high switching cost. And those people who need some number, then in case if you're the multitasker, then your productivity is normally 40% lower. And why is that? Is because our brain wastes its energy on switching between tasks, on rewiring itself, while at the same time, it could be spending this energy on doing just one important task. It has been really big aha moment for me, because I have been doing this for years and I didn't understand why I'm so exhausted in the end. I have been thriving in everything. Why I'm so tired. And this is exactly the reason. So if you have the option not to multitask, if you have the option to book this focus time, at least like 20 minutes, preferably 40 minutes, to do just one thing without telephones, without emails, without anything, you will see immediately how your quality rises and how your results improve. And this is very easy thing to do, actually. It takes just being conscious about this and making the decision that, okay, I will not multitask. I will focus on this one thing.
And there's actually a study that says if you context switch from one task to another, it takes you, I don't know how many minutes to actually get back on track to the previous task. For example, speaking of external factors like the phone or other people just bothering you for a few seconds, you're screwed for the next 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm curious now about the 5th one.
The 5th one is also very common to the overachievers. And this is the myth that I need to use all of my capacity in order to be productive. I need to do stuff all the time in order to be productive. And I know that it may sound counterintuitive, but actually you need to create space for yourself to evolve, to reflect, and to be creative. And it means you do not have to be in this doing mode for too long. In fact, there are many companies that now allow their employees to spend 15% of their time daydreaming, because they have discovered that if they do it, then their employees become more creative, more innovative, and they become more fulfilled at their jobs. And it's not just about employees. So if you're an entrepreneur, this is even harder for you to accept the fact that I need some space just to be without doing, without executing, and let ourselves be creative. And this is the key, how you can continuously evolve and have this bigger picture in mind. Because if you're in this doing mode all the time, sooner or later, you will feel like you're in the hamster wheel on the path to nowhere. And it's very easy. Just create yourself space and zoom out and just let your mind wander. And in the sense, I am very lucky that during first years of my kids, from times to times, they were sick, because in Estonia, we have not so nice, let's say, autumn time and springtime. There are lots of viruses. So what I was doing when my kids were sick, I was actually using this time to let myself wander, to let myself daydream. And this is how some best of my programs and courses come out, from these pauses. So we need to slow down in order to speed up.
Indeed, without that creativity space, which also is something that you have to block in our routine. If we don't prioritize time alone, or time to think, time to be creative, to daydream, as you mentioned, we cannot come up with creative ideas to solve problems or to find solution for something. And I'd like to ask you if you recommend any kind of resources or tools or books for those listening to actually put this into practice.
I have been so much in the research mode that I could overwhelm our listeners with all the resources, but I will not do that. So I will stick to 3 main resources. And the first one is Start with Why, Simon Sinek. And this is the classics, He has written this book mostly for the companies, but this is the same for entrepreneurs and individuals. You need to know your why. You need to know what you want before you actually start deciding on how will you achieve this, and will start working out on all the details. And what I also want to maybe note, when you really are honest with yourself and think about what I truly want, be mindful that you do not take your past and do not project it into your future and think that you are living in the present. Because this is what most of the people do, especially if you have a long career like I have in one area. It's very human that we take it and we project it into the future without being honest with ourselves. What I truly want? So don't take past, don't project it into the future and think that you live in the present. Be honest and focus on the things that you really want to go. And this is all about your why. And the second resource, this is also my favorite. This is Atomic Habits book. I think most of our listeners have heard about this, right? This is great because I think still it's very common belief that it has to be one big leap. It has to be one big bang when it comes to success. But actually, it's about getting better 1% per day in order to achieve this great outcome. And also, when you start building the habit, I want our listeners to understand that it will get worse before it gets better. This is just the way it is. If you want to get fit and you go to the gym, the first thing that happens to you is that you get sore muscles and you think, I will never do this again. It will get worse, but then eventually if you keep going, it will get better and you will get fit. And this is actually the same with the business. If you start the business, your financial state will get worse initially. This is just the way it is. But then it gets better gradually. So when you start building new habits or whatever else you're building, businesses or projects, it will get worse in the beginning, but then you will get to where you want. And the third resource is my own resource. And this is the top 3 communication mistakes even the most professional and experienced leaders make. And I love this resource so much that this is still continuously hanging for free on my webpage. And the thing is, like, why I think that this is very important is because when we co-work with someone, when we have interactions with someone, this is where most of the issues arise. And this is very related with our productivity and performance, because if there is the miscommunication, there is lack of performance. And when it comes to corporate world, then up to 70% of all performance issues are related to miscommunication and conflicts between employees. This guide, it has just 3 common mistakes, which are very counterintuitive, and 3 things what you have to do instead. And if some of our listeners haven't yet seen this resource, then definitely go to my page and grab it for yourself for free. This is the atyourpeak.com, and this is spelled like ATURPEAK.com. So atyourpeak.com, and you will see this top 3 communication mistakes. It's right on the main page. And this is the resource that I actually go myself through from times to times, because we tend to do the same things, the same mistakes when we speak to other people.
Guilty of a lot of communication mistakes as well, not only in my day-to-day life, but day-to-day job, and like communicating with contractors or clients and so on. Can't wait to check it out as well. And apart from your business website, where our listeners can connect with you?
So I'm mostly active in LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, it's Katarina Koik. So our listeners can find me there and connect, and I will be very glad to learn more about them.
Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing all this wisdom. But as we know, knowledge is nothing without putting into practice. So to wrap things up, I would like you to create a 24-hour challenge for those listening to actually make the first step and applying what they heard today.
There will be one step which is a little bit bigger and one that is a little bit smaller. So I really want our listeners to be dirt honest with themselves and decide what they truly want. Write it down. Do not let your past distract it. Just come from the place of curiosity and what you are passionate about to achieve. And once they have it in place, there is the actionable items. What is the one thing I can do today to get closer to this goal? And this is nothing big. Maybe you can talk to someone. Maybe you can explore something about the topic you're passionate about. Maybe you can change something in your public presence, in your public profiles related to this. So it can be a very small thing, but I promise you will find at least one thing that you can do today in order to contribute to this goal that you want to achieve. This is my challenge.
Thank you. And I'm 100% sure that most of us have that one thing that we postpone forever. And that can be another thing that we can actually put it into practice. That was really actionable. Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. Thanks for joining us, Katarina.
Thank you. It has been my pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure to check the show notes where you'll find direct links to the tools and resources mentioned in this episode and much more. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe to your favorite podcast station to not miss when we drop the next one. We have lots of exciting guests and surprises for you coming up. This is your host, Gabe Marusca, with the Nomad Solopreneur Show. Until next week, pura vida!